Keep up with the latest news and updates on the Canadiens, the greatest champions in NHL history. Subscribe now, Toronto Maple Leafs fans. It's time to get ready for a match. The Toronto Maple Leafs would benefit by adding more scoring and physicality to their top six unit. The team is almost certain to make the playoffs, but how they do when they get there is a different kettle of fish. Not so good, thus far. The team has not won a playoff round since 2004. Maple Leafs trade deadline prediction, adding Josh Anderson. This is where the Canadiens' Josh Anderson fits in. That's where a player like the Montreal Canadiens' Josh Anderson fits in. He's physical, he has an offensive mindset, and he has something else on his contract that Maple Leafs general manager Kyle Dubas prizes. He has term. He carries a salary cap hit of $5.5 million through the 2026-27 season, and he then becomes a unrestricted free agent, UFA. In addition, he's also from nearby Burlington. Anderson would be a good fit. Ultimately, the Maple Leafs' lack of playoff success is not solely due to the team's physical play, but it is certainly a factor. To have a chance at winning the Stanley Cup, the team will need to find a way to play with more intensity and physicality, especially when the competition is the toughest. Making room for Anderson. The Maple Leafs would need to make some moves to clear out salary cap space to be able to accommodate Anderson's $5.5 million cap hit. This likely means moving out some of their current players or negotiating a trade that would allow the Canadiens to retain some of Anderson's salary. However, there are creative moves that could be to send contracts to the Toronto Marlies until the postseason comes when the salary cap isn't an issue. One of the biggest considerations is Anderson's contract, which has 5 seasons remaining at a cap hit of $5.5 million. In one way, that's a decent salary for Anderson. In another, the salary cap hit is enough of a consideration that the Maple Leafs would need to find a way to fit his contract under it. Depending upon what aspects move to the Canadiens, is there a situation where Montreal would consider retaining some of his salary? Additionally, Anderson would be 33 years old by the time his contract expires. While that might raise questions about his longevity and potential decline in performance, that's a question for later. It would seem to matter little for the near future and the end of the 2022-23 season. Weighing the pros and cons of bringing in Anderson. Ultimately, the Maple Leafs must weigh the pros and cons of acquiring Anderson to determine whether his addition would bring them closer to being a Stanley Cup contender while still considering their long-term goals. There's a lot of talk about other forwards coming in by trade. In my reading, Anderson's name has not been connected to the Maple Leafs. However, given what I believe about the team's needs and how this management group thinks, I would not be surprised if Dubas pulls off this specific trade. For my money, Anderson checks more boxes than any other trade deadline candidate. If I were to have a vote, my trade deadline move would be Josh Anderson. Keep up with the latest news and updates on the Canadiens, the greatest champions in NHL history. Subscribe now, fans. Toronto Maple Leafs get ready for a match. What do you think about this new hire, and leave your comments here.